Cool. I think we're rolling already.
Sweet.
Yes. So, what kind of meeting were you in? Sounds important.
Oh, no, it was a nice, like, get to know you with other Castle Rock people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
A nice way to start the morning.
Gotcha. How long have you been in Castle Rock?
3 months.
Okay.
No.
Oh, very new.
Very new.
Where were
yes.
you before that?
Denver.
Okay.
So not a far.
What
trip.
brought the move down on?
My partner bought a house down there a few years ago, and so we were at the point in our relationship where it was time to live together.
Gotcha.
So, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Who broached that conversation?
I don't know. It goes just a little bit here, a little bit there.
Okay. It just
but yeah,
started to make sense.
Yeah, he was definitely anxious to get me down to Castle
Okay.
Rock. He's
Yeah.
like, kept saying like, "Oh, is it next month? Oh, is it next month?" Finally,
Was he asking about when your lease was up or something? Or
No, I own my house in Denver, so it was really whenever I wanted to.
Gotcha.
But you
you
get
gonna
so
rent
used.
that house out? Or
Okay. I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. Where's that spot at?
The Glendale area.
Yeah.
So Virginia Vale is the technical neighborhood.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So why don't we get started and you can just
Okay.
tell us about your company, Chefate?
Chefate.
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 Chefate. Okay.
It's a word I made up.
I knew I wasn't pronouncing it right, but it's good to know that it was made up. So, yeah, it's Chef 8, but it's Chefate.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to try and pronounce it correctly.
Okay.
All right. Chefate.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, where'd the name come from?
So I, was throwing around a lot of ideas when I had this idea for the business, and the suffix ate means being full of. So like passionate people are full of passion.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I thought, well, my name is difficult to pronounce, so I might as well name my business something that's difficult to pronounce too.
Okay.
That actually is something I realized later on. It wasn't quite in the forefront. But I thought, okay, chef, and then end it with ATE. That can mean it being full of chef passion and chef knowledge. And so to me, it made perfect sense. And I thought, chef it. People will know how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
And then I did realize, oh, Chef 8. So I tell people, you can pronounce it however you want to. But as long as you know that it means like being full of chef passion and knowledge and excited about cooking. That's really
well,
what
if nothing else, it's a good conversation starter about your business, right? So that's awesome. And so when did you start the business?
Fall of 2020.
Okay. And was this brought along by the pandemic?
It was.
Okay.
Yes. So at the time that the pandemic started, I was working in research and development at a dessert manufacturer.
Okay.
I was the chef on the retail team. So,
Okay.
of course, part of my job was staying up to date on all the trends and what's going on in the retail world. And so I kept seeing that grocery delivery had a higher demand than ever, but a lot of people who tried it for the first time did not have great experiences. And
What kind of bad experiences were people having?
so a lot of it was these services, they weren't used to so many people, and so they were kind of scrambling. And so I think their shoppers were under a lot of stress to get more done quickly. And then the grocery stores themselves were having supply issues. So you have a lot of people requesting these services, shoppers not having as much time, and then they might not be able to find the ingredients or products in the store. So they were making...
Or know what like an alternative would be. 'Cause
Exactly.
we do grocery deliver sometimes, and you'll get certain, shoppers who ask you a million questions, and you know what I mean, and they don't know what to substitute if they don't have something. They don't have almond milk. They have no idea what to get to replace that, right?
Right.
So,
Like, this happened to my sister. She asked for like a little bottle of lemon juice, and they apparently couldn't find it, so they brought her like Sunny D instead of just picking up some fresh lemons.
oh my god.
It's like
Yes.
just
Yeah, because they're not
substitutions that
trained.
don't make
They're,
sense.
it's entry level positions, so they're not chefs. They don't
Right.
know what you can substitute.
Yes, and if there's not that much great produce out, I mean, they'll just grab whatever instead of searching for the best one
think
that might
that's
be
my
at the
biggest-
bottom of the bin.
That's my biggest complaint is that we'll get avocados that were ready to eat 3 days ago, or they won't be ready for a month, and so it's like you just never know. Or you're getting bananas that you can't eat for a week, and you're like, okay, well, I kind of wanted to eat a banana today or tomorrow. It's just a lot of detail, a lot of things that are in your head about what you want to eat for the next week. It's probably really difficult to communicate that via an app to someone who is just running around the grocery store buying all your stuff.
Absolutely, because there's no personal connection there.
Yeah.
They don't know who you are. You don't know who they are. They don't know what your plans for the week are going to be. And
they don't care either.
Yeah, right.
They're not invested. They're not invested at all in that. Right. They're just trying to get your groceries, get to your house, get to do the next one. That's their job.
Yep.
So
how quickly can we get this transaction done?
we should probably back up just a little bit and explain what it is that you do.
Yeah.
So that people aren't confused.
Right.
Yeah.
So Chefate is grocery delivery, but it's chef guided grocery delivery. So on my website, I have a digital cookbook. I have over 200 recipes, lunches, dinners, breakfasts, desserts, all kinds of different things. So you're not just stuck with the same 4 meals week after week. So my clients go onto the website, they choose the meals that they want, and then we talk about, okay, what market do you want me to go shop at? Are there any grocery staples that you want to add on? Is there stuff that you have in the pantry or the freezer that I don't need to buy for you? And then what kind of dietary restrictions might your family have?
Are you talking to them on the phone?
Through email.
Through email. Okay. How many back and forth emails does it take for like a new onboarding client?
Typically 2.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
They are always free to, if they forgot something or whatever, email me extra. But I have it laid out with these pretty clear questions. That way they don't have to constantly be checking their emails. And so I can go and grab all of the ingredients that they need in a very personalized way.
Yeah.
So if there's someone in their family who's allergic to nuts, I will read all of the labels if it's not just fresh produce.
Right.
Any packaged goods to make sure that it's not also made in a facility that processes nuts, all of those kinds of things. And because I know the meals that they're going to be cooking with it, if, for example, the store doesn't have mirin, I can buy them some sake and say, hey, you can replace this one for one.
Yeah.
And it will actually make sense. I'm not just grabbing a bottle of soy sauce, maybe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, they're just going to replace it with soy sauce or some packets of soy sauce from, the sushi corner of the grocery store.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, I noticed that that's something that you're really good at is like being very efficient with the food, like the leftover food, just being really intentional about, hey, we have these. If I buy this for you, you're going to have enough for this meal. You're going to have this much left over. You can reuse that in breakfast the next day. Here's the meal for that. Like, you've put a lot of intentional thought into the meal plans and what food you're going to have left over. So there's like minimal waste.
Absolutely. Food waste is such a big problem. And when we eat up as much as we can, we're honoring all of the work that went into growing this food, whether it's like the natural work or the people who did it. And so I'm really passionate about helping my clients reduce their food waste, but have a lot of fun in the process of using up leftovers.
Yeah.
So it feels like an added adventure, not a chore.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that passion because I also hate waste. I hate wasting food. I hate, like, nothing bothers me more than buying something, it's sitting there for a week or two and you realizing it went bad. I bought some ground beef the other day and it, didn't pay attention to the labels and we had to just throw the whole thing away. And it's so frustrating. Yeah. It's like, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time, waste of resources. Now I got to go back to the grocery store and buy more. So I love that about what you're offering. You do a great job of like educating people on your social media as well. Like, I can tell you're putting a lot of effort into your social media and your marketing and stuff. Are you seeing, what's your goal with producing all of that content?
I want people to feel like they know me because I'm going to go to the store and buy food for them. And there's not much in our lives that's more personal than the food that we eat. So I want people to feel like they already know me, they trust me, and they can see me walking through the store picking out the food for them. And so social media is one great way to showcase people who you are, even if you aren't able to meet them in person at an event or anything like that. So that's one of my big goals. And then even if people don't want to use my service, I want them to feel confident in the kitchen and like excited to get in there, create a meal that they can share with their families. Maybe their kids say, oh my gosh, when are you going to cook this again? Or like, can I help you next time? You don't even have to use my service, but I want, as many people as possible to have that experience. And if I can teach them a few things that make them want to get in the kitchen more often and more confident, maybe a little bit extra creative and more fun, I feel like I'm succeeding.
Yeah. So that's the goal then, is for to just inspire families to cook more food and healthier food and good meals. I love that. So, what was I going to ask? We're gonna have to edit this part out. No, I do want to dig into a little bit of like the specific of your business. So like your business model, how do you so you get clients, how are you charging them? What is the package? Do they have like a package? Is it just a percentage tacked on? Like how are you running this as a business, I guess?
Right. So the delivery fee, it's a 30%. I call it the Chefate fee. So that's, the recipe, the delivery, all of that included. So that's 30% on top of the grocery bill.
Okay.
Because I give people the opportunity to personalize meals and say, oh, I already have this at home.
Yeah.
Maybe they buy eggs from their neighbor or something like that. Each meal, I have an idea of what the cost could be, but it's not going to be the exact same for everybody.
Okay.
Also, if somebody wants me to shop at Whole Foods versus King Soopers,
Right.
that's going to be a little bit different cost.
Okay.
So whenever people pick out the meals, I have a deposit on the website. So they'll go in and they'll pay the deposit. And that is also the trigger for, okay, let's have these conversations about what else you need. And then I can go to the market for you. And then once I go to the market, the actual grocery bill, I add the 30% on and subtract off the deposit that they've already paid.
Okay.
Therefore, they have their remaining balance due.
Okay. So you're not charging for the meals then, the meal plan, the ideas, the meal plans.
Right.
That's just part of the service.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the actual cost comes from the groceries, and for the same price, somebody might be able to get 6 meals and somebody else might be able to get 4 meals, just depending on what they wanted.
Yeah, and how big their family is too. Mm-hmm. So, and your target, your ideal client, describe to me like your ideal client. Who is using your services?
So definitely busy parents.
Okay.
However, a lot of times moms are making the actual decisions about which meals we're going to make. Sometimes, the family will make the decisions together, but most of the time I do communicate with moms.
Okay. I do probably 50 to 60% of the cooking in our house.
Nice.
Now, neither one of us are great. A lot of times it's just real basic stuff, but I do a lot more cooking, I think, than most dads, but I could see, for a long time, it was just my wife. She was just cooking. So moms work, both parents working typically.
Yep. And a lot of times at that kind of like director or above level in their careers where both people are very passionate about what they do. And they also want to create these beautiful food experiences with their kids. And so it's kind of that, I want everything. I want it all, right?
Yeah.
So don't really have time to go to the grocery store, but I want to cook amazing meals. And that's where I can come in and help. I can get rid of all of that before work.
Yep.
Put that on me, and then you can just enjoy that time with your family.
So the parents come home and they know what meal they're going to cook and the food is already in the fridge. Do they reference your recipes throughout? Is it just on their phone? Do you give them a card or anything like that?
Both. I email PDF versions. I know some people like cooking from an iPad. And then I also print out paper copies of the recipes to include with the groceries.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. That's what I like. Something about getting my phone out, and especially like we cook, I try to invite my children in to help me as much as possible. I want to talk more about that later because it is a frustrating experience. My children are little. My 2-year-old and my 4-year-old are the ones who want to help the most. My 7-year-old, she's off reading. She's off usually doing her own thing. She doesn't care too much about helping, but it ends up taking like twice as long and making 3-4 times the mess. You know what I mean? And so I really have to, after a long day of work, convince my brain that, just reorientate myself and say, look, it's not about making the best food. It's not about doing this as quickly as possible. It's about doing this together. It's an experience that they're gonna have these memories, hopefully, and like I want to be intentional about that time and that space, but it is very frustrating. So what do you tell parents who are cooking with their kids? Do you have any like tips, tricks? Like what are you telling them to encourage them to include the kids in the process?
So this is kind of cheating a little bit, but sometimes especially in baking, if it's something very accurate, or, in cooking, maybe you're like mixing up a marinade or something and you really want to make sure they don't add too much of something.
Happens all the time.
You can give them their own little bowl on the side.
Okay.
And so they're kind of mimicking you.
Gotcha.
And maybe you just give them like 2 ingredients to mix together. Meanwhile, you have 8 over here.
Yeah.
And that way they feel like they're helping. They feel like, they're doing what dad is doing.
Okay.
But you don't necessarily have to wait for them to finish mixing it.
Okay. That's good.
So kind of like
Setting up their own station.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's one. And then also, I mean, as you're looking through the recipe, if there are things at the very end that kind of need to be done, you can give that to them at the very beginning and that way they have plenty of time to work on it.
Okay.
And it can focus their attention too. Depends on the task. I don't know. Maybe so I have a recipe. It's a citrus and avocado salad. And I like putting like mandarin oranges, or you could do like peeled cuties.
Yeah.
So if your kid has the motor skills to peel the oranges, that would be a great thing for them to be working on.
Okay.
Where it's not going to mess anything up. It's not going to make too much of a mess.
No. They'll probably eat them all before, and then dinner will come around and they won't. And they're like, no, I'm full. I ate 11 cuties, That's what happens to us. So you got to keep your eye on them so they don't eat all the food.
Yeah.
That's funny. I noticed, like anytime I like make pizza's a good one. It never turns out like, and a lot of this is just my expectations, but like I'll give her the pizza sauce and the spoon and, hey, are you going to do this? And it ends up just all over, you know what I mean? There's no crust around the edge. It's just all sauce, all the way to the edges and things like that. But she has a blast helping me make pizza every week when we make pizza on pizza night. Like it's her favorite thing. And so, I think a lot of it is just my expectation of like, just lowering my expectation of what the food is going to look like. And like, just like, it'll end up tasting the same, when they have like these soft knives that can kind of like, you kind of have to saw to get it through, but they can cut up bell peppers. And it's like, the bell peppers aren't going to be cut nice. They're going to be just absolutely mangled. And that's okay. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's going to taste the same. And they had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. It gives you some variety. The little pieces will be a little softer, more cooked. The bigger pieces will have more texture.
Exactly.
It's good.
So speaking of kids in the kitchen, when you were a kid, that's kind of when you started to figure out your love for food. So tell me about your just like memories of, it sounds like you had grandparents in the kitchen a lot with you. Can you tell me some of those memories that you have as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So my grandma on my dad's side, she of course always cooked for the family, but she was also a good baker. And apparently she was getting tired baking. So when I was 9 years old, she taught me how to make pie for the first time, pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. And I really enjoyed it. Like I wanted to do it again and again. And she said, awesome, Nakia's going to make pie for the family for the rest of the time. I'm done. Like I'm retired. And so, and I think, watching her go through that process, I learned so much just about like timing and patience, and you don't want to overwork the dough, and you just start kind of getting a feel for things. So you can read textbooks.
You kind of learn the art.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then on my mom's side, my grandpa was a great cook, and he always showed his love for people through the food that he would share and the food that he would cook for people. And so, of course, I wanted more and more of that experience.
Yeah.
And, so I'd watch him in the kitchen cooking, and he lived in New Mexico. So we would only be able to visit 2, maybe 3 times a year. But I feel like it was such a great foundation to see definitely that respect for nature, respect for the ingredients, and then that showing love for others and connecting with others around food. So I feel like I just had so many great young child experiences with so many good feelings around food and cooking. And then my parents, thank you so much, because they let me experiment in the kitchen and make huge messes, break things sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure you got one story you want to share, right?
Well, I was trying to make fondant, and I thought, instead of kneading this by hand, I'll just use the KitchenAid mixer. That'll be fine. It is too much for a KitchenAid mixer. And so it broke. There's a little plastic piece inside of it, and it broke it. And I was very worried. My dad ordered the new part and had it fixed in no time, which is awesome.
Because those aren't
but
cheap.
No.
Yeah.
No. And it was like the mixer that my parents got as a wedding gift, like sort of,
Okay. Yeah.
But they were so great in letting me experiment with things and make a mess as long as I cleaned up after myself. And sometimes it was good food, sometimes it was not good food. But I learned so much. So even before I went to college, I was able to really get my hands into food and not feel this expectation of well, you better make us an amazing meal. It's like, no, have fun, do whatever you want, try that, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And so speaking of college, you went to school to be a pastry chef, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's here in Denver, Johnson & Wales, is that the name of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How did you land there from Indiana? Because you grew up in Indiana, right?
Yes, I did grow up in Indiana.
Yeah. You said, I Googled the city that you grew up in, the town. Drawing a blank. What was the name of it?
So Ireland, Indiana is
population 19, I think is what it said online. It was hard to find population anywhere.
Okay.
But the one place I did see it said population 19.
We have more turkeys than we do people. The thing
That's good.
The thing is that must just go for the P.O. box.
Yeah.
Because it's a
It's
really,
like an
really
unincorporated,
small.
it's an unincorporated town. So it doesn't even have city limits probably.
Yeah. So the reality is there's probably a couple thousand people. But we get our mail from Jasper, Indiana.
Okay.
So our address was Jasper, but realistically we lived outside of Jasper in Ireland.
That's a tiny town. How did y'all end up there?
My dad is a corporate pilot, and so he we moved around a lot when I was a toddler, different jobs, and he found this job. It was with Kimball. It's a furniture company.
Okay.
And it was a great job for him for many years. And
Where would he fly in and out of?
Huntingburg Airport,
okay,
which is another small town.
Okay.
There are 3 hangars there, and it's one of those airports where very small.
You use air quotes for airport.
Just small 8 seats or less planes can fly in and out.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's just a random place to land if you're a corporate pilot. But all right.
Yep.
So then you end up in Denver for college, and you're one of those rare cases where you're as a young child, knew what you wanted and then saw it all the way through. Every kid wants to, my daughter wants to be an actress or a chemist, or a scientist. It's she may or may not see that through, but I feel like most kids, I wanted to drive a trash truck when I was a kid. So I obviously didn't see that all the way through, but you're one of those rare cases that it actually happened. So I think that just goes to reiterate your passion for food and how it's been a part of your life for a really long time. So you go to college and what's your degree in? How does that work?
Yeah, so Johnson & Wales is great because they are a business school. And then it was in the 1970s that they added on their culinary program in order to help get Vietnam veterans back
cool.
into working in new jobs.
Trade.
Yep. So it's kind of
so it's been around since the 70s. It's been around a long time.
The school itself has been around since the early 1900s, but the culinary program part of it since the 70s.
Okay.
Throughout the U.S., when you look, there aren't that many culinary schools that give you a bachelor's degree at the end of it. There's some certification programs, and then there are others where you might just get the culinary, and it might be an 18-month type program. What I liked about Johnson & Wales is that I was going to get my associates in baking and pastry arts and then a bachelor's in food service management. So I'd really have the business side if and when I wanted to move up through the corporate ladder. Going to school, I thought, it might be restaurants or hotels, maybe a food and beverage director or something like that. Let me prepare for that. But as I was in school and as I had more internships and things, I realized that is really hard on your body. It's hard to, it's hard to grow old, though people will say you grow old really fast when you're working in restaurants and hotels. It's early mornings. It's hard to see your family for holidays. It was hard to see the longevity in that. And I started falling in love with food science. And so that's when I started to seek out test kitchens and research and development side of the food industry.
Okay. So more cutting edge. What's the new trend in food?
Some trends, and then also a lot of shelf. So the job that I had, we did a lot with shelf life. So keeping these foods as fresh and as tasty for as long as possible without, adding in a bunch of chemicals and things. But like throughout the supply chain.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so
Something you worked
like
on?
in grocery stores, we have like decorated cookies or even like chocolate chip cookies. So the packaging, a lot of times you'll see those in single serve wrapped in like plastic.
Yeah.
And so that is there to prevent any sort of air coming in and out. And that helps a lot because there's yeast and mold and bacteria floating around us at all times. And whenever it lands on your food, if there's enough moisture there, it's going to continue growing and reproducing. Right. And then that's how you get foodborne illness.
Food gets bad. Okay.
So with cookies, cookies are great because there's a lot of sugar in them to bind up the moisture. And so you don't have as many, foodborne issues.
Gotcha.
And especially if it's wrapped in plastic like that.
Cookies don't really last long enough in my house to grow mold
yeah.
ever. So I wouldn't know. They usually don't last more than a few days. So.
But then something like a cake pop, the inside is very moist, but the exterior shell is going to help protect it some.
Okay. So those are really popular and trendy at like Starbucks. And maybe one of the reasons they're popular and trendy is because they have a longer shelf life. So they're easier to make, ship, sit on the shelves for a while and sell. And they still taste good if they're a couple. How long does a cake pop last?
I believe Starbucks will do about 3 days, though in retail settings, we've gotten up to 21 days.
21 days. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So after college, you went and you worked in the lab, right? Is that what you said? Okay. And then how did you transition from that into what you're doing now?
So at that job, I was writing recipes every day. We called them formulas, but recipes every day. And then pitching these new products to either current customers as menu additions or to new customers.
Who's their customer?
I won't name anybody,
Sure.
but they're like major restaurant chains and coffee shops and grocery stores.
Okay.
So we
places we've all been to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
A
Cool.
lot of people have probably eaten a dessert that company has made. They just didn't know it.
Oh.
So.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize that's how that worked. Okay.
Yeah, it was a fascinating job. And whenever a customer would want to add on one of our products, whether it was like a menu extension or switching stuff up, we would then go into production and teach our production employees how to make it the same way over and over thousands and thousands of times.
Okay.
And so that process was really interesting because it was taking the recipe that I wrote and then proving it out time and time again with a lot of different people.
Would you have to tweak it and change things? Like once you start making hundreds of these things, you realize, this isn't going to work, or this thing isn't going to look right.
And like the equipment would also sometimes have an impact on, like a cake batter. It might overwork the gluten or do different things. And so we would have to test it on the equipment and then make changes.
Okay.
But you still want to be delivering the same exact product to the customer as what they were expecting.
Right.
So
consistency is super important, I imagine. Okay.
So it was very fascinating, and it was really cool to see like, okay, this is what I pictured when I wrote this. Now I've talked to 35 plus people about it, and this is what I had to change. So now next time I work on something, I know how to make it even better from the beginning.
That's fascinating.
And so I loved that process, and I didn't want to give up that process of like new product development, writing recipes. And so when I started Chefate, I was like, I need to have a cookbook, and I need to be constantly giving my clients new ideas of meals that they can make.
That makes me think a lot of like the video projects that we do for clients. A lot of times, like I will have an idea, they tell us their problem. We come up with a video idea, a marketing idea that's a solution to their problem. And I always have this problem of having these grand ideas. And then I pitch it to them. They're like, that's great, but we can't do this. We can't do that. And it ends up changing. It still ends up being essentially like the same video and reaching the same goal. But, we always have to like make little tiny changes. And so my vision ends up being very similar, but it's not exactly what I had hoped, or the budget wasn't quite there to make the video that I wanted. So it's fun. It's fun to see it come to fruition, but there's always a tiny little bit of, unsatisfaction where you're like, it's not exactly how I imagined it, but that's okay.
Right. The process is exciting and challenging at some points, but like mostly exciting.
And just having something that is an idea and then seeing it come to life is so cool and so fun. It's something that a lot of people I feel like don't get to do in their job. They don't get to create things. And so the fact that you have an idea, you put your idea on paper and then you pitch it, and other people like your idea too. And so much so they're willing to invest in it, and then it becomes a real thing, a real product. That's really fun and like super satisfying for me too. So awesome. So talk to me a little bit about sort of your goals for Chefate for the next year or so, year or two. How are you wanting to grow? You wanting to expand? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I definitely at this point I'm saying always want to grow. I have bandwidth to take on more people. I want to help more people. Like I said, like be able to create that beautiful experience with their families.
How many clients can you by yourself handle? Because
Well,
you're
I
doing the
haven't.
grocery shopping.
Okay. It's just me right now.
Okay.
And I have not tested the upper limit of that yet.
Okay.
I would think once I get over 24, it would be extremely challenging to manage myself.
Yeah.
And so as I'm creating, things for Chefate and building up my business, I'm doing everything in a way so that when the time comes, I can invite more chefs on as additional shoppers too. And then really to make that a seamless transition, and so that my families feel like they can have as good of a relationship with those shoppers as they have with me. So that is the goal, is to get enough people to where we can also have more chefs on board too. And
could you expand, maybe not this year, but in the future, into other markets, other towns, other cities?
That would be cool.
You could scale it.
Right now I'm delivering in Castle Rock in South Denver, so like Parker to Highlands Ranch, and then even up like Glendale-ish area.
Okay.
So doing all of Denver, being able to have, chefs strategically placed to cover all of Denver would be great. And then maybe even up into Boulder, Fort Collins, maybe eventually nationwide, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you're still kind of in that process of building your systems, I imagine. And so being able to build systems that can scale as you want to scale. So it's going to take a lot of trial and error, but that's really cool. It's exciting. I love systems like that. I love businesses that can scale. So that's cool. I could totally see this working in any market, Is it, I guess it doesn't have to be necessarily suburbs. There's probably a lot of families in urban areas as well that could benefit from this. It's a different lifestyle for them, but so
definitely. I've delivered, thankfully it hasn't been, like downtown Denver where parking is a pain, but pretty close to downtown Denver. I have, and there are clients who don't have a family. It might just be a single person. But I feel like when I help families, I see the benefit very clearly.
How many different meals have you created?
So I have over 200.
Are they all
right now.
original recipes pretty much? Holy cow. Yeah. Okay. So we got to do a cookbook then or something, right?
Well, it's a digital cookbook.
Okay.
And then we don't have paper usage.
Okay.
Better for the environment.
Yeah. But are you going to ever sell just your cookbook? Or is it your baby and part of your service and you don't want to give it away?
So I do have an online subscription. I call it Chefate's Table. So anybody from anywhere who is a Chefate's Table subscriber can access any one of those recipes at any time.
Nice.
Through the digital website.
And that's just on your website. So if someone just wants access to all of your meals, they can get that.
Yep. And then they can request a shopping list. So they'll tell me, I want these 4 meals, and then I'll send them a breakdown of the ingredients that they need. Okay. And then, if they want to send that to a grocery delivery app in their area, then that's fine. I can't stop them. Or if they go to the market themselves.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So there's multiple layers there of how you're helping people, families. So that's awesome. I got some rapid fire questions for you. You want to end? These are fun. These are meant to be really fun. So I'll just throw these out there to you. Take a few seconds to think about them, answer them, and then we can discuss further if you want. But all right, some of them are food specific for you. Okay. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. One has to go for the rest of your life.
Lunch.
Yeah, that's my choice too. Lunch to me is always just leftovers from the day before or whatever I need to scarf just to get to dinner. So breakfast is key. Dinner is my favorite. So, okay. What was your last Google search?
Average temperature of at-home freezers.
Okay.
Because I thought it was probably going to be around 0, but
Yeah,
I also
ours
thought,
is.
well, maybe it's like 10 or 15. I don't really know what the,
Why did you need to know that?
because one of my Instagram posts, I was talking about safely thawing food.
Okay.
And I wanted to make sure that I was telling people, okay, your food is probably going to start at 0 degrees.
Okay.
Just, if at-home freezers, it turns out they're more like 15 degrees, then I wanted to
You wanted
make sure it was
information.
accurate. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Commercial freezers,
Good
I
for
know
you.
sometimes they'll like cycle down to like -10 or
Okay.
so. So I just wanted to make sure it was very accurate.
I never see it always says 0 on our freezer, and I never really thought to change it. Is it 0?
Zero's
Good?
safe.
Okay.
Yeah, zero's safe.
Zero's safe. All right, good. Good to know. All right. What is something recently that you've wasted too much money on? You don't like to waste anything, so
I
maybe this is a bad
know.
question for you.
Yeah, and
What about just
I've like
spent too
had
much
like
money
the money
on?
mindset of like I really want to honor my money by making smart decisions with
Mm-hmm.
it. So trying to think of like, yes, I'm going to spend money, but like I'm going to be thoughtful about it. Probably something wedding related because bachelorette party related must have been. My sister's getting married in a little over a month.
Okay.
So yeah, bachelorette party paraphernalia, we'll
Okay.
say.
All right. Gotcha. I want to say real fast. I love your intentionality. Like less so now that we have kids, but my wife and I have always kind of practiced minimalism. I don't know if you walk through our house. It's just, there's not a lot of decor. There's not a lot of waste. It's like very intentional with our purchases. So I really appreciate that about you. It seems like you have a lot of intentionality in every aspect of your life. Are you intentional with your schedule as well?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And that has been something that as an entrepreneur was a learning curve.
Yeah.
For sure. So I feel pretty good with it now, but it took a lot of focused effort over a few months to kind of figure out what was going to work well for me.
Nice. For any entrepreneurs listening out there, do you have any like advice or life hacks for intentional with your schedule and your time?
So this one appeals probably to women a little bit more than men, but I find my energy will change a lot throughout 28-day cycle. And so really being able to capture that and make the most of my energy at certain times has been really helpful. And then I have to do a paper planner. So like digital, I just can't quite connect. And I'm very color focused. So all of my tasks are different colors based on where it falls, and appointments I'll write in different colors based on, what it's kind of about. And that just really helps me stay focused because seeing that color already puts my mind into a certain subject.
Oh, cool. I like that. Physical to-do list as well.
Yes.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah. I have to have I've tried every app, every computer software program to-do list, and there's just nothing that quite satisfies it like scratching off that to-do. And at the end of the day, just like having all these things scratched off physically, and also having space to take little notes or whatever. If I want to call, oh yeah, I need to do this thing, and here's a little, jot some notes down. So pen and paper to me, that's the same. All right. Have you ever walked out of a movie? These aren't very rapid fire.
Oh,
but have you ever walked out of a movie, and which one?
I have not.
Never.
No. I don't go to the movie theater very often.
Yeah,
so
no
that's
one does
probably part
anymore.
of it. Yeah. But maybe like watching something on TV, have I just stopped binging something? There's a TV show. It's the one that takes place in Scotland. And it's like a time traveler. I forget the name of it. I stopped watching that one very quickly.
Doctor Who?
No.
I don't know.
It's,
That's
yeah.
okay.
The people
worries.
who know will know, and they'll be offended,
answer
and the
is
rest
no.
of everybody will say, okay.
Whatever, yeah. Do you own your own Netflix? Do you have your own Netflix account, or are you freeloading? Freeloading off of
Freeloading.
parents?
So,
Partner?
partner now, and previous to that, my roommate at the time.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Outlander, thank you. Yes.
Outlander. There we go. Justin coming in clutch. All right. Okay. What's the most annoying thing about you?
I can be way too stubborn about insignificant things sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very particular about very specific things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What actress would play you in a movie? If your life was a movie, do you have an actress that would play you?
So when we were very young, Dakota Fanning and I looked very similar. So when she was in I Am
see
Sam,
that. Yep.
that was what I looked like as a kid. And I feel like as time has gone on, we've don't look the same anymore, but maybe she could still.
She could probably pull that off.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. Do you have a favorite vegetable and why?
I like so many of them. Cucumbers, I could eat 2 entire cucumbers
Is that
every
a
day.
fruit or
forever.
a vegetable?
Well, I think like it's
yeah, how do we-
technically a fruit. Almost everything is technically a fruit.
Okay.
I mean, like root vegetables could count as true vegetable.
Yeah. How do they classify that? I mean, because my daughter, my 7-year-old, is like, no, that's actually a fruit. And I'm like, well, I mean, technically it's a bell pepper's a fruit, but I mean, we eat it like a vegetable. We treat it like a vegetable.
I think it has to do with the type of like thing it grows on. So like a tree or a bush, and
obviously a
then
fruit.
where the seed or
Okay.
like that it has seeds inside.
Okay.
Something like that. Because like a sweet potato doesn't have seeds inside. It's root
Carrots.
vegetable. Yeah.
Carrots, definitely. Yeah. So a lot of root vegetable.
Yeah.
But watermelon, definitely fruit, but it grows on the ground. It doesn't grow in a tree.
But it grows from like a bush, like a viney bush.
All right. Fair enough. All right. A few more here. Do you have a phobia? Any fears? Big fears?
I really hate snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Snakes are awful.
Yeah.
All right. You can't live in Colorado anymore.
Oh no.
Where do you move?
Oh goodness.
You're kicked out of Colorado.
Okay, I would spend a few months in northern Italy.
Okay.
Going from
Just try
vineyard
and
to
live there
vineyard.
forever.
Maybe if
Yeah.
I liked it.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice. I was thinking California, but okay. Well, let's wrap this. Land this plane. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find you on social media, your website? Give them all the information so they can look you up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my website is chefatellc.com. So that's spelled Chefate LLC. And then on all of the socials, it's also that Chefate LLC. So Instagram, YouTube, I have some longer form videos, Pinterest, and then a little bit of Facebook. But Instagram is kind of the most consistently updated one.
Yeah, you're cranking out a lot of material. I've been impressed with how much stuff you're cranking out. It's fun. I've watched pretty much all of them. So they're very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Okay. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.